This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 295. The who's who in the animation industry. Does Disney really own everything? Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the #1 place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, animation addicts. My name is Chelsea Robson.
And I'm Morgan Stradling.
Morgan, a couple of years ago, I was asked to give a speech basically about animation and like what I do with you with the Animation Addicts podcast for it was like a church activity, like non-church activity. You know, sometimes they have those as far as just like to help people get to know each other. And so you would give like a presentation on something that you were very interested in. And so a lot of people had different things that were very interesting. And then they came to me and I said, well, I guess I'm going to spill the beans and tell everybody that I'm into animation. You know, when I tell somebody that I like animated movies, I mean, I feel like they look at me the way I look at somebody when they say I like dolphins. I'm like, yeah, I like dolphins too. You know, like they're cute, they're fun to watch. And, you know, it's like, I've maybe seen a couple of the Flipper movies, but I'm not a marine biologist by any stretch of the imagination. And so that's kind of what I feel like when I'm like telling people about animation. And I mean, do you feel like that?
Yes, I do. I do.
And so that's why we created the Animation Addicts podcast, is because we would talk to each other and we would be the only ones who understand it. And you who are listening, I'm sure that you feel at least semi-similar to this feeling as well. This is about 2017. So this is like 7 years ago. I saw an image and it made me want to both laugh and cry at the same time. It showed a stack of character stills like stacked on top of each other in a big tower. And on the one side, on the left side, they had a man that was naming off all of the studios, and each one's like, so you had a character and like all the studios that made that movie. And then you had on the right side, you had another person looking at it and just like bracketing all of them together and just calling it Disney. And this is the plight of an animation addict. And at the time it was like, oh my gosh, these people, they don't understand. But as time has gone on, it's just made me more and more sad because like it is almost true, because I'm looking at 3 of those, 4 of those, and they're all basically, you could put them under the one. And you have another two. So for example, you have the top one was a Disney movie. The next was a Pixar movie, then a Studio Ghibli movie, DreamWorks, Illumination, Blue Sky, Sony Pictures Animation, and then Warner Animation Group. So these were some of the major animation groups or animation studios that were in 2017. that were in 2017. And I am looking at it now and it's like, okay, Disney Pixar, that is all Disney. And Studio Ghibli is distributed by Disney. Blue Sky was killed by Disney. And then you have DreamWorks and Illumination are both owned by Comcast now. And so it's like really the only people that are like still their own thing. Like you have Sony Pictures Animation, which is just part of a giant conglomerate anyway. And then same with Warner Animation Group. And so I'm just like, oh man. So today's episode, I found easily accessible information for 2022. Right now it's 2024. So this is a little bit, this is about a year late, I guess, information. And if somebody wants to compile it for 2023, I will definitely use it. But this episode, we're just going to focus on that information of the top animation studios by income. And we're going to go through each one of them and we're going to ask ourselves, okay, who owns them? What are some of their big achievements? And then also, do they still have a soul? Because all of these are just part of giant conglomerates and the animation studios they own. And then I'd also like to know, like, how recognizable and definable is the brand that studio has created? Because it's not entirely true that just because they're owned by a conglomerate doesn't mean that they don't have a vision and an identity of who they want to be. However, I don't know if it's still the same. So we're going to go through that. You're going to help me decide.
All right, let's do it. This episode is brought to you by Audible.com. Audible is the internet's leading provider of audiobooks, podcasts, and all things audio. A book we recommend, something we talked about in our previous episodes, is the book Disney War. We're talking about the studios right now in this episode and how they came to be. And it's important to understand the history so we know where we came from, where we are now, and where we're going. And if you want to brush up on your Disney history, there is no better book than Disney War, which covers basically the Michael Eisner era from the 80s to the mid 2000s era. And this is a very, very good book. It tells you the good, the bad, the ugly. It is a massive book. And it's a great thing that it's a massive book because you, with our Audible trial, get a free audiobook. So you get one free credit. And the good thing is, the bigger the book, it doesn't matter. You still can use that credit for these big books. They don't make you use 2 books for the, 2 credits to get it. Nope. So 1 credit gets you Disney War for free. Just go to rotoscopers.com/audible to claim your free trial.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh-oh, the last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
All right, so we're going to start off with the big kahuna, the one we all know, Walt Disney Animation. Walt Disney Animation is owned by the Walt Disney Company, located in Burbank, California, USA. In 2022, the annual revenue for the entire Walt Disney Company was $82.7 billion.
Whoa.
I'm just going to throw that out there. That's a lot.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I would like to see how they have done. I do want to see the 2023 numbers.
2023 for sure was lower.
It was definitely lower. So I'd be interested to see that updated. Nominated for 11 Academy Awards: Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet, Brother Bear, Bolt, The Princess and the Frog.
It was actually more.
Oh, really?
$88.898 billion. So technically an increase. Surprising.
I'm getting all this. I'm getting my information from an article I found on Zippia.com, which just goes through a list of the largest animation studios. So yeah, I'll blame them for any wrong numbers.
No. I'm saying 2023 was higher.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes,
well.
which is surprising, right? Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
They must, clearly the movies division was not contributing to that. There are other factors at play, probably Walt Disney World, which is the cash cow for the company, and they are squandering it, but that's for another day.
That's another subject. So Princess and the Frog, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Zootopia, Moana.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned this because these are basically the studio, these are the movies that came out since they reincorporated or renamed the studio as Walt Disney Animation Studios. Mm-hmm. You know, they've won these Academy Awards. But I mean, obviously they've won Academy Awards way before that, and they were studio. The studio's just gone through a variety of different names. So it's interesting this list doesn't really recognize anything before, like Treasure Planet as, they were nominated. You know, clearly whoever accumulated this did not do a ton of research.
Yeah.
But
it's
okay. We'll fill in the gaps.
The writer of this of the Zippia article obviously wasn't an animation addict, but it's fine.
Obviously.
But they have won 3 since the reincorporation of Walt Disney Animation: Frozen, Big Hero 6, and Zootopia. So, okay. So based on them, do they still have a soul?
Oof, that is a very heavy, loaded question. But the problem with, Walt Disney, and I'm talking more so about the parent company, the Walt Disney Company, is that it's really lost its way as far as its unique identity. Mm-hmm. And it's become such a huge conglomerate that it doesn't care anymore. It's just this monster that wants to keep eating other monsters. Yeah. And that's what it's doing. So, with the 20th Century Fox acquisition, which was probably the stupidest purchase they ever could have done, the owner of those assets was just laughing his way to the bank. I think it was Rupert Murdoch, who just like Disney. Iger totally overpaid for that because he wanted it. He wanted their back catalog. He thought Disney Plus was going to be the way, so he wanted even more stuff. And to me, again, I'm talking about Disney as a whole, but it doesn't seem like they have an identity anymore. When you go into Disney Plus and you see The Simpsons, and you see these Blue Sky movies on there, it's just like, this isn't you. Like, you can't claim this as your own because this wasn't you. You just bought this and adopted it into the family. And nothing wrong with adoption. I absolutely love adoption, but this is different. And it really bothers me to see that that's what Disney thinks they are now. We're just an owner of brands. And they don't necessarily have to be even good brands. Mm-hmm. We just own them all. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, does Disney have a soul anymore? I'm going to say no. I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah.
There's a few things propping the company up. And with Disney Animation specifically, they've had dud after dud after dud. Their last real hit maybe, was obviously Encanto, but even that release and how it ended up being successful was quite odd. But, no, Disney Animation does not have a soul anymore. They're run completely by the wrong people, both in the studio and then the people over the studio. And they don't know who they are anymore. They have no driving vision. They're kind of just activists, and it shows in their movies. And they're not here for the family anymore. They're not here to tell great stories anymore. They're just here just for their agenda, and that's pretty frustrating. And yeah, they are in a down day right now.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know if it's just me that has noticed this, but I feel like many of the corporations within the United States specifically have been really suffering in the last couple of years, like specifically since COVID. But even before then, I just feel like everything was just kind of like teetering as far as like knowing who they are and who they want it to be. And so it's just, Walt Disney Animation Studios. Well, we shall see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can turn it around, hopefully. But all right, so moving on, we have Sony Pictures Animation. They are owned by Sony Corporation of America, Culver City, California, USA. In 2022, their annual revenue was $81.371 billion.
Shocking.
Shocking.
That's, I mean, nearly at par with Disney.
Yeah.
And again, when you're giving these revenue numbers, it's not for the studio, it's for the parent corporation.
Right.
So, and Sony Corporation of America owns quite a few things beyond entertainment,
yes,
so it's kind of muddled.
Yeah. And that's the main thing is like, it's a conglomerate. So the conglomerate made all of that money and
all the electronics and things that they offer.
The electronics. You also have like Sony Music. You have all of these other companies that are kind of thrown into there. Now, I will say though that Sony Animation, they have had a couple of really good ones, really good movies that have come out. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is probably their biggest flagship at the moment. But even before then, I would say that they have had a pretty good string of good movies in the last decade.
Yes.
So what do you think? Do they have a soul?
When you think of Sony Pictures Animation, it's kind of hard. They have, hold on, pull up their list of movies. They definitely have something, different movies that they've done. Like you said, Surf's Up, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Smurfs, Hotel Transylvania are all them. So there's multiple of those. The Emoji Movie.
Yeah.
Spider-Verse, Mitchell's versus the Machine, Vivo, Wish Dragon. These are all kind of Netflix originals. So they're all over the place. They have the Sony Spider-Man rights, and they do that animation, and then they do things like Cloudy and the Chance of Meatballs, and so they have a lot of variety, but it's not very cohesive.
Yeah,
they do the job. They do the job.
Yeah, I feel like they've hit on a couple really good ones though. Their art books have always been the top line. But they've just, I feel like on a scale of 1 to 10, where is their soul?
A 5.
I'll give them 5. All right. All right. So our next one, we have Netflix, Los Angeles, California, USA, owned by a mix of insiders such as the co-founder Reed Hastings and Chief Legal Officer David Hyman, as well as some of the biggest asset manager companies in the world, such as BlackRock and the Vanguard Group, as of February 14th, 2024. So,
great.
Yeah.
We love BlackRock.
We love the BlackRock.
They own everything. Great.
Yeah. Okay, so in 2022, annual revenue was $31.616 billion. They've had 4,
so about a third.
Yeah. They have had 4.
But they're strictly you can say for the most part, they're strictly a media company.
Yes.
Compared to Sony, Disney, which have their other entities.
Yeah. And as far as Netflix being able to actually figure out and handle the streaming game, they're the OG. And
it's taken them a long time to figure it out, but they have. And it's finally working for them, but it takes a long time to get profitable in this business.
And I mean, there's been lots of controversies with them over the last couple of years. You're throwing out movies like Cuties and all these other things where you're just like, you've got to be kidding me. So yeah, I don't know. The thing is with Netflix, a lot of it is people already go ahead and they build their thing on their own. So they have many other maybe animation studios or film studios that they build their own thing, and then they go and sell the rights to Netflix, and then Netflix goes in and does it. So it's a very different model.
They're just more of a distributor versus an actual studio. They're not necessarily a studio. They might have a few things that they produce in-house, but for the most part, their bread and butter, they're going to someone's going to present them something and they'll buy up rights.
Right. So you have these different studios that have come and distributed their wares through them, and that has resulted in 4 Academy Awards or awards nominations. Klaus, Over the Moon, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, The Sea Beast, and then they have won 1 for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. So I don't know. Do they have a soul? I'm going to say no.
No.
Absolutely not. They're at 1-0.
Yeah. They're like just a shell.
Yeah.
They're just a shell company that just gives a platform. But as far as an animation studio now.
Yeah. Okay. So Illumination Entertainment came next. Actually, this one was not even mentioned on the Zippia article. I had to go in and like, excuse you. Why are you not
add them in?
Yeah. Because Illumination Entertainment, Santa Monica, California. All these are in California.
Which I believe they just changed their name to just Illumination now.
Yes, they did. And they are owned by NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2022, I just looked up the one movie of Minions, The Rise of Gru, which grossed $940.7 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot just for the one movie. Yeah, almost $1 billion. And so everybody else is, going off of multiple things, and Illumination just had the one. And here's the thing about Illumination. I feel like they are one of the ones that have more of a soul than anyone,
mm-hmm.
because all of the movies here that they have created and put out. So it's best known for Despicable Me, Secret Life of Pets, Sing, those franchises. Then you have some Dr. Seuss books like The Lorax, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and then also Nintendo coming in with Super Mario Brothers. But the Minions characters and the Despicable Me, that has been the foundation of Illumination since it started. And it hasn't been out very long. So Chris Meledandri has been the main producer of all of the films, and he was over at Fox prior, but he's kind of like a big deal for what he's been able to accomplish with this since 2007 when he joined.
I think the big thing with these studios is having a founder and a leader and a creative visionary that's at the helm for a significant portion of time, if not the entire time, is key to having these studios and films have a soul, because it gives them some consistency, a guiding vision. And with him being there from the beginning, you can really see that and you can feel that. Like, Illumination when you see it. It's consistent and it's good.
It seems like a driving vision has been placed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say 8, 9 as far.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give it an 8.
All right. We're going for 8 for them as far as do they have a soul. Okay. Next is DreamWorks Animation that is located in Glendale, California. See, I think that's also a problem, is that all of these studios are in California, except for like when you get...
It's Hollywood, baby.
I know. But when you get down a little bit lower is when you start getting a little bit outside. But I feel like the fact that they're all in California, it also muddles the artistic visions of people, because they're just like bringing in people from all over. Like, nobody is there for a destination, for a single vision, for a single purpose, for a single company. Everyone's there to, bounce around. And so you have different people that are bouncing around. And so you're not really going to get people who are dedicated to a single vision,
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, DreamWorks, owned by NBC Universal and Comcast. 2022, they brought in $915.9 million. So good for them. Last Wish, and just one movie. So the Last Wish was $485 million. That's a lot for one movie. Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been more. Should have been more. That movie was awesome. Nominated for 12 Academy Awards. Shrek, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, Shrek 2, Shark Tale. We have Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda 2, Puss in Boots, The Croods, How to Train Your Dragon 2, The Boss Baby, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. So you have a lot, and they've won one Academy Award for Shrek. Do they have a soul?
Yeah, they do have Jeffrey Katzenberg, who up until this recent time after they really got bought out in 2016, he was there for a while, then ultimately he did step down, and I don't think he's really involved with DreamWorks Animation anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, since its founding, he was there, he was involved, and it was interesting because he really wanted to do DreamWorks. He wanted to be different. He wanted to show that animation could be this art form, and it could not just necessarily be for kids. And so they had, Prince of Egypt, which was super successful, but just didn't really hit in the way that it should have, especially. And then, followed right after by Shrek, and Shrek became the huge behemoth that it was and really took over the studio. They really started going down that kiddie path. And he wanted to produce more art movies and epics, and show what animation could do. And he never really was allowed to continue on. And he was kind of like, okay, I guess we're making money. And
I guess we're making money.
And so he had this vision, and I think that's like really their magnum opus, but it went away from them, and not necessarily that it's a bad thing. You can see a DreamWorks film and a DreamWorks film. They all have the DreamWorks style and feel and presence, and I feel that currently, as of today, they have more of a soul than Disney for sure, because they're just kind of consistent in what they do with the bad guys and the Puss in the Boots, the Last Wish, and Shrek. Like it makes sense, right? Yeah. It feels very DreamWorks. So I would give them about a 7.
That's what I was thinking too. 7 came to my mind as you were saying. I was like, I think it's a 7. I think Illumination is still higher, but they also been shorter time period.
I'd say they'd be about tied. So yeah, 7, 8. My throat. Okay,
all right,
continue.
Next, we've got Pixar, located at Emeryville, California, owned by the Walt Disney Company, Burbank, California, USA. 2022 annual revenue was $770 million.
It's interesting because they're owned by Walt Disney, but you're kind of piecing them out as a separate entity because they are. Yeah. But in the revenue, they called out Pixar's revenue specifically, but they didn't do that for Walt Disney Animation Studios.
That was a weird thing about this article. They're not really consistent.
I don't know about this number.
Well, we'll look at, so they've been nominated for...
That's what it says. I don't know. Zippia. Well, that's the only place that's...
So Zippia is a site if you're trying to get jobs. So
I would question that number.
Okay.
It seems the only place that number is coming from is that article. I maybe I'd have to dive into the SEC 10K report to see from 2022 what they ended up showing.
Nonetheless, here we are. So nominated for 15 Academy Awards: Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, Toy Story, Brave, Inside Out, Coco, Incredibles 2, Toy Story 4, Onward, Soul, and Turning Red. They've won 10. Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, Toy Story 3, Brave, Inside Out, Coco, Toy Story 4. So, okay, did they have a soul? Yes. And I think they were the epitome of having a soul.
Having a soul.
They were the
and then
the gold standard.
And then they released Soul, which was soulless.
Yes. They were the gold standard. They were the 10 of having a soul up until I would say Incredibles 2 was the downwards fall.
I mean, once Pixar was purchased by Disney, there was a noticeable decline in quality. It was still pretty good, but as far as things that had come prior, it was tangible. You could sense it. There were more of these sequels like that nobody wanted. No one wanted Cars 2. No one wanted Cars 3. Maybe Cars 2, there was an appetite for it, but after the failure that was Cars 2, there was not an appetite for Cars 3. So much so that for one of our April Fool's jokes, it was just laughable that like Disney greenlights Cars 3, and then like a year later they actually do, and it's funny because our April Fool's Day predictions of stupid stuff that this company could do, they went on and did it.
Right.
And I feel that was very much corporate pressure, and that's when they started to lose their soul. And then when John Lasseter was forced out, then the soul left the building.
Yeah.
And from everything that's come since, you think of Onward, Soul, Turning Red.
Toy Story 4.
Luca's okay. Toy Story 4 is terrible. Yeah, soulless is what I would describe it. And that's how I feel about Disney today, especially I saw the new trailer for Mufasa.
Oh gosh.
And I'm just like, who wanted this? Who requested this? And then I just wrote soulless in my comment because it's true. The animation there was no, even in the first one, I didn't see it, but from what I've seen and heard in the clips that I've seen, the soul was taken out of the characters by trying to make it photorealistic. And they don't even claim it's an animated film, which is such BS and gaslighting. and it was interesting. Sorry, this is a little tangent, but it was interesting because the tide had totally turned. You can get a pulse on like the masses when you go to Facebook and you read the comments on any general post that a company puts out. And I would say 90% were like, what is this? This looks terrible. No one wanted this. Why didn't you make this traditional animated like the original Lion King? And so I think because it was just riding this wave of huge, huge success, and it did over $1 billion, and everyone saw it because of nostalgia and member berries and all of that. People didn't know they were being fleeced. And then it wasn't that good, and people kind of convinced themselves it was because they got conned into seeing the movie.
Right.
But now that this is here again, people are like, no, Disney, and Disney has time and time again proven they're not very good. Anyway, so that was tangent time. But yeah, Pixar's kind of the same way. Pixar doesn't have that Pixar sparkle anymore. When I see Pixar, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to do a Pixar film. It's going to be amazing. It's because they're always amazing and they're so unique and different. Like Ratatouille. I remember when I saw like the preview for Ratatouille and gearing up to see that, I was just so pumped. But it was just such an odd film to be excited about. I really didn't know what I was getting into, but just the fact that it was a Pixar movie meant it was going to be good. There was no doubt. And they've lost that. Pixar's a 1, maybe a 2.
I think it's more on the 1 side, just because I feel, based on what I've seen and based on how things have played out in the last couple of years, I feel like they're going to get the blue sky treatment.
No, sell it back to someone. Sell it like the last one, but they would never do that because the IP is too valuable. That's all Disney cares about is the IP.
Yeah.
But then they don't put in the effort to cultivate new IP to allow the next. It's funny because IP really has a shelf life. That, when you think when they put in new rides for things, Disney typically won't immediately put in a ride or an IP, or at least previously they didn't, for something that hadn't been around for at least a long time and it really had stood the test of time. And now they're going to that well a lot sooner. In California Adventure, there's San Francisco Square, which Big Hero 6 came out in 2014, 2015?
It's gone. That's like way out of my mind.
And it's just like, okay, that was like a one-off movie, and it was like supposed to be this Marvel movie, right? That Disney was going to be doing. Or,
I feel like
you just think of like the Simpsons ride at Universal.
Yeah.
That has really phased out. They're going to be replacing that. I think it's something for Mario that they're going to be doing as part of that, or maybe Minions. I can't remember. Don't quote me on any of that. But I know the Simpsons ride is going away. And it's really like had its era. Mm-hmm. And so it's important that, yes, while you do have successful movies, you can do stuff with it. The shelf life of that is limited. And IP is not always going to hold the value that it has. I recently saw an article that showed that Bluey is now worth more than Marvel and Star Wars combined. And this really proves my point that IP is not forever. You have to cultivate, you have to keep it. It's like a little flower. You need to help it grow, make sure that it continues to grow, because if not, it will die and it will lose its value. And you think of Star Wars where it is now and Marvel compared to at the highs where it was, where things were so great. It's like Bluey of all things is worth more than both of them combined. Astonishing. And I think that's with Pixar. I think there are a few IPs that they just haven't burned to the ground yet. I think Toy Story is really the biggest one, only for the fact that it really has a ton of replay value for any generation.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to have grown up in 1995 to get it.
Right.
Like if you're a kid, you like those toys, and they're pretty timeless just because they're kind of children's innocent toys. And so like you see them in the parks, you're like, oh, Woody, so I think they've kind of, hit past that, where now they're kind of free sailing or, smooth sailing for now. But there could be a point where they do to Toy Story what they do to Star Wars. But we'll see. We'll see. All right.
It's like the entire thing is just, it just feels like Night of the Walking Dead, Okay. Next, Nickelodeon, Los Angeles, California, USA, owned by Viacom. Get the other one of the 6 major conglomerates that own everything. So they were nominated for 2 awards for Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, and Rango. They did win Rango. So Nickelodeon in our day definitely had a soul.
Well, as far as a TV station.
Yeah, as a TV station. It never really had. The cartoons, Nickelodeon cartoons.
Yes.
It was a distinct, like,
Rugrats. Yeah. Ren and Stimpy. Is that Nickelodeon? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Cartoon Network? I didn't have cable, so I don't know.
So I'm like, I don't know. But Cartoon Network is on my list as well. They were absorbed by Warner Brothers Animation Studio in 2001. So, yeah. So that would be a part of that group. Nickelodeon today, I don't think they have much of a
No,
essence.
I couldn't even, like, as far as feature length animated films, like, okay, you did Rango 14 years ago. Okay, no.
Okay, so moving on,
no.
we have Leica in Hillsboro, Oregon, USA. Whoa, we're different. Leica is owned by the Nike co-founder and chairman Phil Knight, and is located in Oregon's Portland metropolitan area. Knight's son Travis acts as its president and CEO. 2022, the annual revenue was $36.5 million. Nominated for 5 Academy Awards for Coraline, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings, and Missing Link. They have yet to win, which I don't understand.
There's a stop motion bias with the Academy.
There is, yeah. But there's so many of their movies that I'm like, I still think about Kubo and the Two Strings. Like that one will live rent free in my mind for a long time for a lot of reasons. But like there's so many parts of this that I love watching them. And if you're asking me as far as do they have a soul? Yes. I would say that they have like around the 8 or 9 as far as 9, 10.
Yes.
Like they have the fact that they are disciplined in keeping with stop motion, plus all of their movies have been a little quirky. A little bit on the interesting side.
Yeah, they stand out. They're differentiated. They have a collective essence when you hear Leica, when you see Leica. Yeah, nothing's really come out since Missing Link in 2019. Their next movie is called Wildwood. It's coming out in 2025. So this studio really, unfortunately, just because of the nature of stop motion, just doesn't really resonate with audiences very well. Their most successful was Coraline, surprisingly, in 2009, and that kind of like, yes, it gave them a boost. But then from that point on, they haven't been able to replicate it in the box office at all. And so as a result, they've really stagnated. Their movies are slow and few and far between. So they have a soul. They don't have the momentum that I think they probably wish that they had.
Yeah. Side note, Missing Link, as I'm thinking about it, my brother has the shoes from Missing Link.
Oh.
Like they have the coloring and everything based on his outfit. I'm like, why what? It's like, I liked it. I'm like, funny. Okay. There you go. All right, next on my list is Aardman, and they are located in Bristol, England. Aardman became employee-owned in 2018. 2022 revenue was $26 million. They have been nominated for 4 Academy Awards for Wallace and Gromit, Curse of the Were-Rabbit, The Pirates, Band of Misfits, Shaun the Sheep movie, and a Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon. And they have won 1 for Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
They've been around a long time.
Yeah, they have.
They've been making shorts, the Wallace and Gromit shorts, for years. We even did an episode on covering those. And they've been kind of releasing these movies. Main one was Chicken Run in 2000.
They have another one coming out.
DreamWorks, and they have a few movies. Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget came out in 2023. It was a Netflix exclusive, so it was kind of a blink and you miss it sort of thing. Like, I forgot that came. Again, that's the problem with this Netflix streaming model, is that it just doesn't get the eyeballs. So, I mean, for me, I want someone to buy my film so it's somewhere, but I also want people to see my film. But I guess, I don't know, do you want to embarrass yourself by releasing it and it's not doing well? I don't know. I guess that's the interesting play we have nowadays. But there's another untitled Wallace and Gromit film supposedly coming out this year, and then another untitled film. So they definitely have a soul. They're cohesive, consistent. I'd give them probably an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
I don't like to give out 10s too much, so I give them a 9.
I think
cohesive.
I think so too. I wonder if the fact that they're employee owned also adds to the fact that they are more well, I mean, that wasn't until 2018. They've had the same.
I mean, that's nothing's really come out since then, other than Missing Link.
Yeah. All right. So
I wouldn't factor that in.
Okay. So next we have Studio Ghibli, and they are distributed by the Walt Disney Company. So they're not owned by them, but they are distributed by them. And I don't think that they have that much input, except when they do the overdubs. Disney will have different, some they're like, oh, I don't like that joke. We'll throw something else in there. So there's that.
We're gonna have Christian Bale do Howl.
Right. In 2022, revenue was $7.6 million. They've been nominated for 6 Academy Awards for Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, The Wind Rises, The Tale of Princess Kaguya, When Marnie Was There, and The Red Turtle. They've won one for Spirited Away. I remember I watched The Red Turtle, and so Lee is the name of one of our press people. Like, she helps us go to these different press screenings, and then afterward you find her and you tell her what you thought about the movie. And she always reminds me of when I came out of The Red Turtle. I was just like, I have no idea what I just watched. And she's just like, I just laughed at that. I'm like, I mean, it was good, but was it good? I don't know what I just watched. So anyway, Studio Ghibli, they definitely.
The problem is when you think there's a distinction with Studio Ghibli. There's the Studio Ghibli films that are directed by Miyazaki and then the others.
Yes.
And there's really a chasm and a divide between that. And I know that's Miyazaki's son. He kind of tried to take over, but he's the visionary. He's the great one. So, for that reason, I'd probably give it a 5 because it is and it isn't.
Yeah. It's give and take, or it's probably half, because of if he's putting out half the films, half of them have a vision and the other half are other, like, not quite to the same. Going into some honorable mentions, we have Cartoon Saloon. They are still independent. Now, I don't know about private investors. They may still be funded by BlackRock. Who knows? So I don't know. But Cartoon Saloon, they are located in Kilkenny, Ireland, and their 2022 annual revenue was $6 million. Nominated for 4 Academy Awards: Secret of the Kells, Song of the Sea, The Breadwinner, and Wolfwalkers. They have won 0 of them. The most recent one that we did was Secret of the Kells. We did not particularly enjoy that one. And Song of the Sea I liked. And
they do a lot of Celtic stories and interesting history. They're very cohesive. They have a unique style. Yeah. They have sort of a thematically cover, like, it's very similar. So I would give them pretty high. I'd give them probably an 8. Yeah. A Cartoon Saloon movie when you see it. Now they're not necessarily super successful, but they are critically acclaimed. So, nonetheless, they're trying, and they know who they are.
Yeah. Another one is the Warner Brothers Animation, best known for creating Looney Tunes, Batman the Animated Series, Space Jam, the Lego Movie, Storks, the Lego Batman Movie, Smallfoot, Scoob, and Tom and Jerry. I don't think that they have much of a cohesiveness.
Yeah, I mean, they used to back when it was just the Looney Tune days, but now they've branched into more things. And so, when you do Space Jam, those are those characters, but then are you pigeonholed into just using these characters for the rest of your life? And Warner, they have like the Lego movies now, and I get that, but then there's Smallfoot, and then there's Scoob. So they're really all over the place. They're trying to use some IP that they have, and I'd say they're about a 4 or a 5.
Yeah,
cohesiveness.
I'd say 4. And then RIP Blue Sky. They were based out of Greenwich, Connecticut, USA, bought and killed by the Walt Disney Company in Burbank, California. Annual revenue of 2022, 0. But they were nominated for 2 Academy Awards, Ice Age and Ferdinand.
They were pretty cohesive. Like, you understood who they were and what they did. I'd say about a 6.
Yeah, they were.
And I need to say, I need to probably correct for Disney and Pixar, because I'm like 1, 2, and that's more recency bias, right? Because I'm taking into the past 5 years into that and just basically lumping. Well, all these other companies, I'm not doing that to. I'm like, oh yeah, they're pretty fair. So I guess I'm going to revise Disney and give them Disney and Pixar. Disney, I'm going to give a 5, and Pixar, I'm going to give a 6. I think Pixar's, because of the shorter tenure, probably has held on to their cohesiveness a bit more. And I'll give them both a 6. I'll give them both a 6, because for the most part, up to a certain point, the 2D traditional animation up to 2005, like, it was very cohesive. You know what it was? It was all, and then they moved into CGI, and that was cohesive. And there's just been some recent duds that have really just tainted the brand for me. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to
See,
it would have been, if maybe this was 20 years ago, it would have been like a 10 out of 10, like a 9 out of 9. But because of just like recency, 7. I'm going to give them a 7. I'm going to give Pixar a 7.
Okay.
But they're falling. Like the stock is rising. I would not be buying that if I were to, if we were to buy who has a soul.
Like buy or sell.
It would not be a buy.
Well, yeah, I think that, that if you looked at 10 years ago, even like 15 years ago, it would have been, you knew that Disney Animation was a once upon a time studio and Pixar was the what if studio. And Disney had much more of the musical side and Pixar was not. And they were like, no, this is who we are. They definitely started out as 10s and knowing who they wanted to be. Yeah, and then have faltered at times. So we shall just see, it depends on for them whether or not they can pull their act together. So all together, this was a bit of a long kind of go through, but I feel like it was needed to kind of just like take to understand like where the animation studios are and know who they are and what they are about. I think it was good to relive that, refresh our memories.
Nice. Yeah. Interesting. Well, everything's owned by everything now, and that sucks. But if you're not owned by someone, you will be owned by someone. That is the state of corporations and business today. And it's a sad, sad world to see everything just be folded into another giant soulless corporation.
Wah, wah. All right. We would like to know what you guys think. If you go to the rotoscopers.com/295, you can leave us a comment on there on the website and let us know what you thought. If you have any, if you think that we're out of line, if you think that we're right in line, let us know. Make sure if you want to send us a voicemail too, you can go to rotoscopers.com/voicemails, or you can dial 406-646-6575.
That's all we have for today. Until next time,
we are the Rotoscopers.
I guess we still have on the docket the best of the rest non-Disney animated musicals.
I was looking at that the other day. I was like, what are the other options that we have here?
I think like Rockadoodle, Swan Princess, American Tail, all the knockoffs from the 90s, Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, definitely Prince of Egypt. Okay, let me close this and get back to work. Get back to work.
Oh, here's the kids' toothpaste. It made it into the black pit, the abyss that is the office.
Oh.
Things get in here. If you, honestly, this is the worst room in the house. You can't even step in here. It's just so, it's too much.
That's how my dad's office used to be before I dismantled the entire
I just
thing.
don't like going in here. I avoid it. I don't want the kids to be in here. If Jared is looking for something, I'm like, I'll do it. Just, you don't go in there. It's because I'm embarrassed about it, but
right.
At the same time, it's a giant mess. I know generally where things are, and my goal is to turn this actually into a playroom for the kids. But then, what do you do with the stuff that's in it?
Yeah,
it's just a big project. Although my organization lady, one of her number one thing, she has this 5-step process. I don't know if you watched that video, but the first step is find trash. For the first 3 steps are easy, no brain activity at all. You don't have to sit there and think oh, where do I put this? Do I want that? It gets not really emotional with things. So this is no emotion. The first thing is trash. So just go around and you just find trash. This wrapper, this receipt, this. And then even if you get, my life, there's always a child who needs help or you get disrupted after 5 minutes.
Right.
At least it is marginally better because you got rid of the trash.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next step is take things back. And this is where I think she should switch. I think the donation should be number 2 because you don't have to go places.
Yeah.
But anyways, her next step is take things back where they are. So if this pen or the toothpaste, I'll take the toothpaste and I'll put it back in its home. Not next to its home, not on the counter by its home, literally where it goes, right? And if I get interrupted after I do that, at least it is marginally better because the toothpaste has been put away or 10 items have been put away.
Right.
Actually put away, not put in a semi spot let's put it in the junk room and we'll deal with it. That's not a thing. You don't put it in a junk room to deal with it later. You literally deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Step 3 is donation. So then you go through anything that's like obviously donate, throw it in the donate box. And then 4 and 5 is a little bit, where you're getting a little bit more involved. So anyway, I like it. It has, honestly, just those first few easy steps have really changed my life, because just like, I'm just going through and I'm just getting trash. It gives me like a focus.
Yeah.
I don't get overwhelmed with things.
And it's something to check off your list. Like, I got the trash.
Yes,
I know how to take out the trash.
And another thing she says, which is kind of unrelated, is if there's only one thing you can do, it's do the dishes every day. Do the dishes, do the dishes, do the dishes. Because just by getting your dishes in order, like, your life just feels so much better.
It does.
And she has a thing called dishes math, which just relates to anything. But, if you have 1 day's worth of dishes, it takes 10 minutes. If you have 2 days worth of dishes, it takes 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If you have 3 days worth of dishes, it takes 60 minutes, whatever. It multiplies.
Yeah.
Because, then you have stuck on grime and dirt, and there's just more effort when it accumulates. And so that's my thing, is like, in the morning when the kids get ready for school, is I do the dishes. So I unload what's in the dishwasher. We're to the point now where we basically run our dishwasher every day, which is kind of crazy. I unload the dishwasher. Anything that's we have like a left sink and a right sink.
Mm-hmm.
The left sink is things that were scrubbed and then they're just left to dry right there, like really big things, like big pots and knives that we don't put in the dishwasher. Okay, so I put all those away. And then if there's any dishes for some reason, I put those in the dishwasher. I wash the kids' bowls, and that is really good. Just having the dishes done gives you a sense of somewhat control and ownership over the day. So anyways, there's Morgan's non-animation tips for success of life.
Oh, you want to see what I got in the mail? Because I told you about my little trip. And by the time these episodes come out, I will be
on the trip.
I'll be on the trip, if not coming home. But I got here, let me pull this out. Okay. I got a backpack that it's like, I have to pull it out. So like on the inside zipper, it's all like just for like my laptop and everything.
It's blurry because of your background, but yeah.
Let me see. If
it's fine. I can imagine.
You can imagine. Here,
I can only imagine.
Let me see settings. Okay, background and effects. None. Okay, there you go. All right. So
I see your room.
Yes, my room is quite the mess right now. It's just the bed, though. I just make it anyway. So inside, you've got the place for like the laptop and like office stuff, like work stuff. But on the inside, it's got a really big pouch on the front, and basically it's like it expands. That's the expander. Where am I? Over here. This side, it has a big opening right here. The big thing is this, which it is a compactable closet, basically.
Oh, awesome.
Inside you have the spots for like your clothes and anything else, and it compacts like this. And the main problem is not the compacting and putting it in, it's like displaying it during your trip, where it's like I don't want to like be digging through my
getting it out, putting it somewhere.
And finding it. It's just like you hang it, and then it hangs either from any place where you can hang something, or you can hang it from the handle of your suitcase. So it's like, oh, look at that. I feel just so much more organized now. Yay.
I love it.
So yay. It's
congrats.
It's one of those Instagram ads that have just been like living.
It actually worked out.
It actually worked out for me.
Nice.
But it's been on my list of wants for at least a year. And so I'm like, all right, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Cool.
All right. So I'm going to turn off my background. You don't have to look at my bed. Okay.
Hey, I don't judge. All right, let's do this.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag Animation Addicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.